What we do need to do is talk about God's existence, because if there is a God, then no. So that's what we're going to get to. What I was trying to get to.
We know before we go to the ifs. So, John, you're pulling away from what we know to the ifs.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm doing that is to show you conceptually it's not irrational to believe in a miracle. If there is a God.
Yeah,
so let's talk about if there is a God.
That's in the realm of if. What
Yeah.
we know, what we know, a virgin birth is impossible.
No, that's not what we know.
That's what we know.
No, it depends on where you start from. So if you start from there is no God like you do, then you'd say it's impossible. But if you start from my perspective that there is a God, then it's possible. So let's talk about if there's a God. Because you said you can defend your beliefs, right?
You're taking me to another place.
No, that place
You're
is...
trying to take me to another place.
No, that's not another place, because you agreed with me, it's conditional.
Sorry?
It's conditional.
Yeah, but we're talking about ifs. You're going into you're taking me into the world of the ifs, and
no, I'm not.
anything is possible, right?
Now,
flying horses.
Yes. Now I'm talking about the antecedent. I'm talking about God. Okay. So let's talk about God. What is your position? You earlier on said you were never you were a choir boy, but you didn't have faith, and now you're an atheist.
I was a Roman Catholic.
Sure.
But I was never a believer.
Sure. And so today you would describe yourself as an atheist. You'd say,
yeah,
okay, sure. Now, I describe myself as a theist. I say there is a God. Okay? Now, have you looked into the arguments for God's existence?
I have looked into Islam. I've looked into...
No, not religion. We're talking about arguments for God's existence.
Well, this is religion. Various religions argue for the existence of God. The concept of a God comes from religions.
Not necessarily. You can have deism. Deism is belief in God without religion.
Yes, but the concept
like Einstein, Spinoza, and these type of people
as
well.
Yes, but the concept of a God comes from religion. The religions introduce the concept of a God.
Right.
Right. So what people have done is, okay, well, I actually don't believe in all the scriptures, but I still, okay, there must be a creator or whatever they call this thing, right? A God or a creator.
But that's not necessarily true. We've had people in history who came up with the belief in God, but they did not subscribe to a religion necessarily. So let's talk about this. So say something like the human brain, right? Our human brain is very complicated. It's more complicated than any supercomputer in the world. If you happen to be staring at all of this stuff, you won't get this sign like your memory's full, right? You'll recall things from your childhood. You'll be able to remember emotions. You'll be able to read people's facial expressions and tell whether they're happy or they're sad. So the brain is something far greater than a supercomputer. How would you explain that when, from my perspective, I would say there is design behind the brain?
How would I explain that? It's a brain. It's a function of the brain. It's very complex. We don't understand the brain fully yet. It's an organ of your physical body.
Okay, so
your brain is everything. This is this is it. Well, your brain is you. So.
Okay. What I'm trying to get to is, I think there's a category mistake here. I'm not talking about the mechanical workings of the brain. I'm speaking about the existence of the brain.
Yeah.
Like, where did it come from? What is the best explanation?
Humans developed the brain.
Humans developed. Okay, how?
It's like all animals develop brains and through evolution, right?
Okay, so that evolutionary process, was that without God's interference? There was nothing to do with God?
It's like what religion is not you, but religions, what are they doing? They putting this God entity into a natural phenomenon. There's no need for this agent to be part of this natural phenomenon, right? Why? Why do you need to put it? We know evolution is real, and we are still in a process. Evolution's never stopped. People are evolving. Animals are still evolving, right? Like 400,000 million, just plucking
the first 4 billion
years out of my arse, so to speak. But let's say 500,000 years ago, we were more hairier than we are now, right?
Right.
humans, but we look different, right?
I think what I'm saying is, I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the process. So we can discuss the process, whether it's actually effective the way that people mention it. What we're speaking about here is whether you believe in natural selection and random mutations leading to a generation of the brain or you don't. How is it that that fits with atheism rather than theism? Because as a theist, you can come up with several positions. You can say it was some sort of theistic evolution, or you can say that Darwinian evolution is nonsense and that it was God. There's different things, but how come you mentioned, when I asked you about the design of the brain, you mentioned as if atheism can explain it through evolution? And that for me is a bit problematic.
It's not about that atheism can explain it better or not. Evolution is a process. It's a fact of life, and it doesn't matter if I'm atheist or a theist. Evolution, it's still a process.
But when I asked you,
to do with my religion, my belief.
Sure, Damien. When I asked you about the brain, and I asked you, look, for me, I would look at the complexity of the brain, and I would say that the complexity of the brain goes back to a designer, and you said it goes back to evolution, meaning you have made what I believe is a false dichotomy between God and some natural process.
We developed this brain. Our brain it didn't appear out of nowhere, right? We developed over time. Our brains become bigger and bigger.
Sure, but you think that was done purely by nature without any?
This is a fact. This is the only thing we know. Religion is trying to say no. This is because of something else.
So you're saying we know that there was nothing beyond nature was involved in the creation of the brain.
There is no other solution. There is no other realm that could have affected evolution. All we know is what we know about nature, right? It's nature.
So here's what I would disagree with you. I would say you don't have knowledge of what you just said. You have belief of what you just said. You have a belief that the human brain developed without any divine intervention. No, it's not. It's not what you. It's not.
Evolution. Okay, there's nothing certain about evolution, right? But evolution.
But if nothing's certain, then it's not knowledge.
But hang on. There's no 100% certainty in evolution. Evolution, the concept of evolution is the best explanation we can give at this present moment in time to. For us being us. Right?
Okay, even if that was the case, the way you did,
we can,
sure.
Because obviously science changes, right? It's
evolving.
Sorry.
Evolving.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not like religions. No, the book says this, so it has to be it, and we will defend our position to.
Okay, but you said we know that it was done naturally without God. That's what you said. You know.
It's the only explanation we have at this moment.
Okay, so I want to ask you this question, Damien. Is that what scientists say, or is that what you believe?
It's what people which are smarter than me say. Yes.
Okay, so in that case, what you're doing is you're outsourcing your thinking.
Well, I haven't got the capacity because I'm not a biologist. You know, I read my books. I read my papers, my scientific papers.
Sure.
You know, the ones that really interest me, space and all stuff.
Sure.
You know,
It comes down to belief.
it's not about belief. Science is demonstrable, right? It's not about me. I've got a choice not to accept.
Why do you believe in it?
So just to.
It's the only explanation we
Sorry,
have.
can we just complete this conversation, please?
It's not certain, but it's the best example we have.
So
It's the best,
Damien, on this.
not example. So it's the best model we have for us becoming human.
So Damien, what if your knowledge of what the scientists believe or what the scientists have come up with is not correct because
it's a possibility.
it's a possibility. Okay.
We don't know everything.
Okay.
Science
So
doesn't know everything.
yeah.
It doesn't claim to know everything.
Yeah. So here's the point. There's a common perception built around through popular films, through culture, through other types of things, in which this perception of yours is quite popular, which is that science has shown that God has absolutely nothing to say when it comes to biology, and evolution does away with God's existence.
Science doesn't say that. What science is showing that there is no place for a God. There's no.
I mean, that's not what science is doing, though. No, but
why does God need to be in this equation?
What you just said there, I believe is incorrect, and I'll explain to you why. Okay. So, firstly, God and science are not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. It's not like if you believe in God, it's a science stopper. In fact, the belief in God is a science starter. Because remember, science flourished under Christian Europe, under Islamic Middle East and Spain and these places. So for the vast...
Not really.
You don't think so?
Not really.
How far back does the scientific enterprise go?
You know why the Dark Ages were called the Dark Ages?
It wasn't the Dark Ages for the Muslim world.
I'm talking about Dark Age for Christians.
Right.
When you say religion, science flourishes, it might have been different in the Islamic world, but I'm giving an example of the Christian world. Christianity actually squashed science, and for 500 years we're in the dark.
And do you know the reason behind them doing that?
Alexandria, all the science that we used to know.
So, do you think that was Christianity, or do you think that was Hellenistic philosophy which dominated the church?
Christians destroyed a lot of science. Christians.
Okay, so look, historically,
they came with the Bible. This is the shit.
Look.
The rest is
okay.
In Islam might have been different, because I know Islam was. Remember, people before Christianity, before Islam was Islam, there were civilizations, were right people, there were smart people. You know, we weren't stupid.
Yeah. We had circumference of the earth. We had loads of
There's
things.
a lot of science that, you know. I'm reading a book about a technology the Romans had. They had little robots, little puppets that move. They had these. It's you know, you think that what Romans? Yeah, they were actually.
So let's get back to the point that God is not a science stopper. God is a science starter, if anything, because conceptually. Okay, I'll explain to you why. If we say look at the last 1,000 years, in which we've had the modern scientific method, the atheists have really come right on the end. Just these last, say, 100 years. For the vast majority of the time, it's been Muslim and Christian scientists. And Christianity is not to blame necessarily for science being stopped. The church was influenced by Greek Hellenistic thinking, so it's a lot more complicated than that.
Greeks were very pro-science.
Greeks had...
There was no conflict.
No, there was. So Greeks, they actually developed what we call proto-science. However, there were some Greek ideas which were science stopping. So even if you were an atheist, if you accepted the Hellenistic beliefs, you would actually go against certain scientific principles. For example, they tried to use experience to show that the theory is confirmed rather than theory is false. Now, what's interesting is Hassan ibn Haytham. Okay, so they were reconfirming their theories, using observations to reconfirm their theories, not trying to falsify them. Now, Hassan ibn Haytham, he was a Muslim scientist who lived about 1,000 years ago, and he developed the scientific method, and he developed and pushed the idea of falsification, that you're there to falsify. So the thing which we need to be fair to the Christian world is that it was Hellenistic thinking which had dominated the church thinking, rather than just them saying we believe in the Bible and so on and so forth. Okay, now getting back to his point, science is governed by...
I just made the scientists in the early Roman Empire.
Audible.
This book is really obviously
okay.
I'm listening to it,
okay.
Really good. Richard Carrier.
Okay, also
very good.
Patricia Farah has a very good book, Science of 4,000 Year History. And she says
a lot of science that was forgotten. Remember, especially Christians now, they came in and they destroyed the burning of Alexandria. There's a lot of science that went. I'm not saying everything was right. Obviously, what you're saying is absolutely right.
And also, we also have to remember, atheists also hindered science at points.
Sorry?
Atheists also hindered science at points. We had the Soviet Union, which was being resistant to the Big Bang cosmology, which was also pushing out certain pseudo-scientific ideas, which...
Yeah, but that's different. I mean...
Okay, but anyway, to this point, currently, what the claim that you made, I'm going to show that's wrong. Science doesn't say that God has nothing to say with biology or anything like that.
It's right. I'm not. That's not what I'm
Oh,
saying.
you know what you're saying.
That's
Okay.
not what I'm saying. What science is showing that it's not part of the equation. That's all. And they don't say
it's
that
not.
God doesn't exist.
No, science is not saying that though.
But there's no room. There's no.
But you see what's happening here, Damien, is wires are being crossed. Theology, metaphysics, science.
All you're doing is a claim. You're claiming.
No, but I'm trying to show you why. Okay.
But
So,
still a claim though. You can't prove anything.
well,
You
not.
can't demonstrate.
But
You can't demonstrate.
no, but that's not exactly correct.
Because you've got a concept of God, the Christians got a concept, the Jews got a concept of their God, right? And nobody can get it right? So, can
Okay,
God,
but
let me ask you a question. Can God do anything?
But Damien, here's the problem. If you say something like that, right? The Christians have a concept of God.
Of other gods
Okay.
you know.
Christians have a concept of God. Jews have a concept of God. Muslims have a concept of God. Okay.
Are they all right?
Okay. Now this type of thinking will actually destroy science. Why? Oh, there's so many different ways of interpreting the phenomena. Therefore, the phenomena doesn't exist.
Science doesn't get involved with it.
No, but I'm saying your conceptual thinking doesn't make sense. Because if you're saying, oh my God, they have so many different conceptions of God, therefore it doesn't make sense, we could apply the same to science and say there's so many different conceptions of phenomena.
Science is demonstrable. Science is about our natural world. Let the theists argue which God is better, which God is real.
What I'm trying to say is that your way of thinking that there's many different views on God, therefore it doesn't make sense. I'm saying that line of thinking is not logical.
But does it make sense?
What does make sense?
If it doesn't, I'm saying it doesn't make sense. Are you saying it makes sense? So what's your
What makes sense to me is that many different people throughout history have tried to come up with conceptions of God, but that doesn't mean for me necessarily there is no God, just because there's many different views. That makes no sense. This is a very famous argument of Ricky Gervais and these types of people. The fact is, it doesn't make any sense. It's not a logical argument at all. Now let's get back to this point. Science has this paradigm, has this way of looking at the world, which is that for natural effects, we're going to look for natural causes. Okay? Now Muslims have no problem with that. Christians have no problem with that.
Now they don't. Back in the day, they used to know.
That's not true. I'll give you evidence.
Dark Ages. Hello.
The dark.
Going back to the dark ages,
Damien. You should know this, right?
Science was
We can't take
Especially the Christian,
we can't take the European experience and superimpose it on the world.
I'm not saying. I'm talking about the Christian.
Sure.
That's what I said.
But
Maybe in the Islamic countries.
I also explained it's more nuanced with the Christian world than what you're saying. It's more nuanced.
Because when we talk about
Because even if Christian Europe was actually atheistic, if they accepted those Hellenistic ideas about reconfirming theories, they would have fallen into the same trap. It wasn't necessarily about Christianity. Anyway, what's very important to keep in mind is this. At the moment, there is absolutely nothing in the scientific domain that says anything against the existence of God. This is a common misconception.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything for God either.
Okay, but what does that show you? It's neutral. Now it's for me or for you to argue.
That's right, you're right.
Okay,
You're right.
yeah.
Science is not. It's not taking a position.
Yes, fine, good. We agree with that. Okay, therefore, what you said earlier, when I explained to you about the design of the brain, you said evolution. That answer doesn't make sense. It's like me asking you, do you like stamp collecting? And you say you live in North Luton.
It doesn't make sense to you.
No, it doesn't make sense as a answer because...
Biologist?
No, but I studied philosophy of biology.
Well, I went to school as well. We had a bit of biology, I'd done my A-levels.
No, but listen. Where does it say?
It's like when if I'm going to argue about Islam, you'll say.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, but you're not a scholar. So
I hope you agree with me.
You can't.
Oh, you do.
You can't tell me because are you a scholar?
No, I'm not saying that, Damien. I'm not saying. No, Damien, I'm not saying that. No, you're a smart individual. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that biology can be used by theists and atheists, but now they need to come up with arguments which are non-scientific, which are philosophical.
Why?
Because science, like you said, is neutral.
Okay.
Do you see? That's what's going on here. So what I would do, let's agree science is neutral. Now you're going to use science to show your argument for atheism. I'm going to use science to show my argument for theism. Okay? So I'm going to come up with an argument, and you tell me whether you think it makes any sense.
But it's all about. It doesn't matter if I'm theist or atheist. It doesn't matter.
What do you mean?
Science shows us science helps us understand the natural world. That's all it is. It's a tool.
Yeah. So
it's a tool.
yes. It's neither. Science is neither. Yeah. So science in of itself intrinsically is neither theistic nor theistic unless we can show using a non-scientific argument that it's actually theistic or atheistic.
You can try, yeah. I mean,
Okay, so let me explain to you. So, science shows us that we have to apply our rationality to nature in a methodological way to come up with theories. That's how we do. So science is basically the application of reason to the natural world. Okay? So, how can a human being trust their mind and trust that their mind can unlock the mysteries of the universe and it can come up with concepts which are true if the human mind is a product of a random evolutionary process without divine intervention? What reason would we have to trust our mind? What reason would we have to do science? What reason would we have to even believe that truth is valuable? Science needs a moral anchor, and it needs values for it to flourish, and theism provides both the conceptual framework for science to work and the moral framework within which it can flourish. However, atheism doesn't do that, and that's why historically it makes sense that theists were at the forefront of science.
Theism was in the forefront of science.
Yeah.
I think you should ask Suboor to repeat what he just said then, because I don't think it quite makes sense.
The theism is that.
How do you mean?
You said that just repeat what you said.
Atheism cannot provide the moral anchor and nor the conceptual framework for science to flourish.
But you said that theism could. You explained why theism.
So?
You said theism could.
Theism can. Because we believe God has given us a mind. We believe our mind is trustworthy. We believe in morals come from God. For example, truth.
That's tautological. Okay.
Why are you squeezing? What's that got to do with morals? What's science got to do with morals?
Okay, so I'll explain what science has to do with morals.
I don't understand.
Okay,
why
so
you bring that into
Sure.
a tool that we use to understand the natural world?
Sure.
I don't understand.
Now, why do we want to understand the natural world? What's the reason behind it? Like, for example, coronavirus. Why are we looking for a cure?
Why do you asking me a question? Why we want to understand the natural world?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And for example, right now,
I think that's a silly question.
Why?
Because why would you want? It's a silly question.
Why?
Everything we know, you're recording because of science. You're talking on the phone with your family because of science.
Sure.
Why were you asking that question?
I'm asking the question because there's certain things that we take as granted, but it's nice now and again.
Now because you're used to this technology, but it had to have a beginning. It had to have someone. Edison, the telephone, or
Okay,
the light
wait.
bulb, or whoever, you know.
Why is it wrong to question these beliefs? Like, we believe it's good to actually look for a cure for coronavirus. We believe it's good to do medicine. We believe it's good to understand the world. But my question to you is, why? Like, what is the reason behind that?
Why we believe? You ask me why say that again.
Okay, let me put it in simple terms. We want to, let's look at a concrete example. We want to be able to come up with vaccinations which are going to be effective against coronavirus, okay? For instance, okay? What's the purpose behind this?
What's the purpose of?
This, looking for vaccines.
What do you mean?
Or anything else with medicine. Looking for cancer research. What's the purpose behind it?
To cure the problem.
Cure. Help people.
To help people
Reduce suffering. Okay. And that... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So reducing suffering is a moral virtue.
Okay, well, in that
So do you see why science needs morality? Do you see why?
So what?
Why is that a moral
What? Reducing suffering.
Why would you use the word moral?
Okay, the reason why it's moral is because we believe it is good to save lives and it is bad that people are dying.
What about if
That's not a definition of morality, though.
what about
Oh, the definition of morality.
Well, you're saying why are you using the word moral?
Because it's good that lives are saved. That's why it's a moral issue.
what about if you
No. You could just say that's a kind of philosophical choice. You could say that's a moral, but I'm asking why the word specifically moral.
Because good and bad are involved. If good and bad are involved, it's moral. And I believe with cancer research or anything in medicine, it's good and bad.
so what would
Science,
Are you saying
like for example, Nazis use science for bad purposes.
is
Correct?
death bad and life good?
In relative terms, yes.
In relative terms.
Yes.
So that makes it moral. But actually, of course, we need death, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
What about if you replace?
You're a very clever guy.
What about if you replace moral, the word moral, with well-being? It's about our well-being.
Yeah, again, that's a moral issue. Basically, what I was trying to get
Calling
to,
it moral. Why if you replace that moral with well-being?
it
Don't
doesn't.
use the concept moral. It's
Yeah.
about well-being. We all want to be well, right?
No, but that,
You would prefer.
no,
would you prefer life
yeah, but
over death?
that's again a moral virtue.
It's an empathy, though. That's a moral virtue, but it's not necessarily a moral imperative. It's a
Good. I agree. It's not a moral imperative yet, but we can show why moral imperatives exist. Okay. So
Would you prefer life over death, right?
yes.
Yes. Would you prefer to be healthy than sick?
Yeah.
So that's about well-being, right?
Yeah.
That's science about making our life better, easier.
Yeah. Okay.
People,
Okay.
humanity.
Okay. But well-being is basically a veneer behind which you have moral anchorage.
Yeah, but
We believe in good. Look, let me ask you.
Scriptures have different morals,
Okay.
right?
Let me put it in a different way, Damien. Look.
Is scripture moral? Is
It can
everything
be.
in your scripture moral?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You're gonna
Because
shoot
based
yourself
on
in the foot.
based on my definition of morality, yeah. Now, do you believe the Nazis used science for immoral purposes?
Yes.
Okay. Conversely,
That doesn't
Oh,
mean
no, no,
science is bad.
no. I'm not saying science is bad. I'm saying conversely.
Can people use religion for bad
Yes, they
things?
can. They can.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the Nazis use science for immoral purpose.
Yeah.
Therefore, science can also use moral purpose, and it shows that science does have morality behind it. Even the concept of truth. You believe in truth. I believe in
science itself.
Yes, it does.
It's humans using this tool. This. It's not a. Science doesn't. It hasn't got morality in it. Science is a tool, right?
For
So
science to
you can
flourish-
use that tool for various.
No, but
you can take a knife. You can cut your bread and meat, or you can stab someone,
okay. Look,
right?
for science to flourish,
That's got no morality in it, right?
look. For science to flourish, it has to have a moral anchorage. Like for example, if you look at the earliest proto-scientists, they were about saving lives.
Necessarily into science. It's about. You're injecting this moral framework.
Do you not
into
see it?
Which is unnecessary, really.
It's not unnecessary because even for example, let me.
God agent into
No,
this
but
equation.
Damien, let me ask you.
Sneaky-
Look, Damien, let me ask you a question. So, is it better to believe in something that's true than to believe something that's false?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. So, science is there to try and come to the best explanation of the world, and that is better than coming up with random hypotheses. Do you agree? Okay.
This is what religion
Okay.
does.
Okay. You.
This is what religion
okay.
does.
Okay, but that's a distraction. Okay.
That's a truth. That's a fact, right?
Look. Okay. So, the beliefs which are true, we hold them to be dearer than beliefs which are false.
Absolutely.
Correct. And if somebody has the choice of a true belief and a false belief, it's better for them to go for the true belief than the false belief.
That's right, but not everyone does it.
No, that's fine. Okay.
It's
So
not.
so that
It's
means
not fine.
that means
That's the problem.
okay, Damien, I'm just getting to my
Yeah.
point. That means truth is good.
Of course.
Okay. That means for scientists to understand the world, to understand what is true, they believe in a
What is
concept.
real, what is real,
They
right.
believe in a conception of the good. Do you understand? We believe truth is good.
Again, you are injecting that moral thing into.
Okay,
Why
it's
are
there.
Why are you doing this?
Instead? Do you want to use ethics instead?
But ethics wouldn't exist without some form of morality.
No, but it's the same meaning, really.
No, but
Ethics.
what I was trying...
Morality and ethics is, I've just kind of looked up the definitions, it's pretty much the same. But why use it? I think moral...
But do you know why...
Ethics has that more of a human vibe, hasn't it? And